Hello, everybody, and welcome to Todd and Shane's Cloudy Podcast, number 421, recorded live Wednesday, February 6th, 2019. So, Shane, our HTTP code theme works a little better this week than last week, though last week's I liked as well.
Is that because you are thinking that anyone who found our show is probably here because of a misdirected request, and so
Probably so.
421 works for them?
Probably so. So HTTP code 421 misdirected request. I think there's probably a lot of poetic justice to anybody listening to our thing. The other thing that I found funny about this is there are HTTP codes in the 200s and 300s, and we never thought to do this until the 400s, so we're idiots. And we are 20-some episodes into this before one of us decided, instead of just every week going out and Googling whatever the HTTP, to actually just put a link to the list of them in the notes so we can just click it every week.
But see, when you do that, we lose things like remember the great dog picture that was high as a kite that I had last week? We lose things like that if we do this.
That's true. That's true. So that I'm like, oh, I think I'll just put we are 21 in and just now thought to do that. So that's good on us.
Yeah. Well, the good news is it looks like I just now, because you put the master list, boring. I just scanned through them, and most of them pertain to our show pretty well. So I think
that's excellent. So something for folks to look forward to.
Yeah.
That's good news. So yeah, production, everything's going well, other than the audio problems that we had before the show. It's always something. A setting that I have not touched in Windows in months was the fix for today's problem. So I do enjoy that. It's always something.
We could be, fallback careers, professional audio engineers, clearly.
Troubleshooting. Yeah, I had to fix as we go off. We are, 37 seconds into this, we're already going off on a tangent. I have a heater in my garage. And it has been brutally cold, biblically cold here the last couple of weeks. I think you're probably experiencing a similar thing in Ohio. You get the weather after we get it, so I'm sure it's.
Thanks for sharing.
Yep. But one really annoying thing is our master bathroom is above the garage, and the heater is right below, like where the sink and all that is. So when the blower kicks in, it shakes and like knocks stuff off the shelf and things like that. And hadn't really noticed, but that wasn't going on lately. And also noticing the garage was not cold. Yeah, so putting on my troubleshooting hat, I pieced that all together. Yeah, the heater was broken. And knowing nothing about heaters like I do, I decided to get some tools, a ladder, and get up there and just see what's going on. So my 8-year-old and I were out there working on the heater yesterday, like a champ. And I was able to troubleshoot. I had it down to one of two components. And the trained professional came out today and verified that it was one of the two components that I thought that it was. Not that I could have fixed it, but I did feel good about that. So the controller board, so I figured it was either the blower or the controller that controls the blower. Because I, tricked it, got heat, it was generating heat. I could see fire, didn't lose my eyebrows or anything. I was pretty proud of that. And yeah, he confirmed that it was the controller. My next step would have been to, just give the fan power directly to see if it spun. But I was, yeah.
Please don't.
Yeah, well, it would have been great for, you got the show to yourself. It would have been a solo effort.
Hand the child the camera before you do it.
Yes.
But get her out of the garage. Right. I want her to film it from outside. Get the Tesla out of the garage, get the kid out of the garage, and just have them film from away. Yeah. Right. I mean, gas and Todd holding open wires and arcing stuff.
Yes. What could possibly go wrong?
Oh gosh. Well, and I'm glad. I mean, did you go with the Air Force manual method of resetting a hard drive? Right. Step 1, take the hammer and hit the side 4 times.
I did not, because I knew I was. So I've got, I could hear it. And I knew that but I didn't think to hit the motor. It's a good thing I didn't, because that wasn't the problem. But yeah, it was. So our troubleshooting skills, they have lots of,
Yeah. Well, and since we're off on a tangent, speaking of. Warmth, the kids beforehand. So Todd and I, we both work in our own basements, and I don't know if some of you don't have basements, but where you have a basement, it's pretty much a slab of concrete connected to the really frozen ground that Todd was just talking about.
Yes.
And so your poor little toes sit on that all day long. So after suffering through this for the last 10 or 12 years of being stay-at-home people.
Yes, God, we are idiots. Yes,
that's really the motto of the show. It takes Shane and Todd a really long time to figure out the easy way to do things.
We are slow learners. Put that in the show notes as a title.
Oh, they are having a lot of fun over there with the show title suggestions.
Yep.
But so I purchased a foot warmer, right? It's an electric foot warmer. It's a little pad,
It's like an electric blanket for your feet.
Yeah. You put it on the ground and then you plug it in. It's got different settings. Not that you don't always just use it on high. I don't know why it has different settings, but
yeah.
But and that has made a tremendous difference. I've had it for about a year now. I decided after a year, right? Because we know that Todd does things 9 months after I do. It's right MVP-ness, a lot of the different things along the way. Todd is just 9 months after Shane does. So he's getting into power apps real soon too, by the way.
That's good. We're like 3 or 4 months away from that happening, yeah.
But so I've been using it for a year. It's worked out great. Todd bought one for him and his wife because he loves his wife very much.
I'm a hell of a guy. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I don't know. I think we're now officially, it's a recommended product for those of you that work for Home on the Show. It's this Sunbeam foot warmer.
Yeah, I'll put it in the show notes. We can. It's it's been very. It just sits on the floor. My wife, she was a little. So she doesn't work from home. She's got one of those office jobs.
Boo.
And she was all worried because she has to wear shoes because that makes sense. And so she was afraid to put her shoes in it. And I'm like, but the only thing that's ever going to go in it is shoes. So why are you worried about getting it dirty? Because it's going to be shoes. It's all. So, and I'm like, and you can unhook it so you can easily wash it. All the control parts are outside of it.
Wash it? Is that something I'm supposed to do?
Well, we're not because we don't wear shoes. We're not heathens. But yeah, we can. So.
You don't think Jill's shoes are probably? I think Jill's shoes are probably cleaner than our feet. I mean, if I'm just going boys versus girls type of stuff.
Well, she's got to walk across parking lots and things like that in her shoes. And I don't know about you, but I'm a tenderfoot. I don't walk across parking lots in my bare feet.
I am also a tenderfoot. That's another thing we have in common, right?
Aww.
Like if and I'm such a tenderfoot. Like if I have to do like the dishes or something, I have to like walk around the kitchen for 15 minutes. I have to put on my shoes because walking around my kitchen for 15 minutes in my bare feet, my feet get a little sore. I need the cushion and the padding in my shoes. So
poor little tootsies get a little. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, baby feet.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go, folks.
The foot warmer. And then would you like to share your pro tip that you just shared with me?
Oh, are we ready? Or should we wait until they've ordered one and,
hold that, put that in the notes for like 423 or something after they've had time.
That's what I think. Yeah, right. So you guys, Amazon it, right? Because this show won't come out for like 2 more weeks.
True.
So next day Prime it or same day Prime it probably.
Yep.
And then, but yeah, I think then, a couple weeks after they get used to it and they're like, oh, this is nice. We'll then tell them how to take it from nice to, oh.
Yeah. Now in full transparency, Shane just told me this hack 7 minutes ago, so I haven't actually been able to do it myself. So I am with everybody else. The anticipation.
But Todd you should have seen his eyes when I told him. He's like, that's and yeah, he got worked up.
You guys are lucky I'm doing the podcast and not prepping myself for the hack. Yep. So speaking of troubleshooting skills, as we go into some technical topics, if we've got time for that, Microsoft has had a rough 2 or 3 weeks. And we have covered some of this. There were some login issues a couple of weeks ago where people couldn't log into Microsoft things, couldn't log into Azure, Office 365. Turns out that was a DNS issue. People were not able to resolve login.microsoftonline.com. Turns out that was not the only DNS issue that was lurking in the background. Excuse me. And some users are having problems getting updates, like Windows updates. Same sort of deal. So my coworker, Mark Anderson, is out on the East Coast. He has Comcast. They are one of the people that's having this problem. Somehow the corrupt or the wrong DNS things that CenturyLink or Level 5, I guess is the DNS arm of them, pushed out different ISPs, cache, whether the time to live is expired or not to speed things up. Some of those erroneous DNS entries got out there. And like Mark can't do Windows Update on his computers at his house now. And so that's out. That's a thing. Microsoft's got some articles about it. Basically, just refresh cache everywhere. If you're using your ISP's DNS servers, try pointing at Google 8.8.8.8 or Cloudflare 1.1.1.1. Supposedly, they have good numbers for everything. But it's funny how that DNS thing just takes everything out.
Yeah, and it's so right. We've just become so interconnected in this new cloud world that. People are calling me up about their Power Apps being broken, right? People are hitting you up about SharePoint being broken. Windows Updates is broken. In reality, it's none of those things are actually, right? They're the symptom, not the cause, right? And so we're having to look upstream to find that it's a much grander issue. So it's a new troubleshooting skill set that you have to kind of embrace.
Yeah, and so I forgot about this. Lori was on site, and she was trying to get to does Power BI. It's all in the cloud.
Yep.
Was trying to do something on her phone, didn't work. So the difference in DNS between her phone provider, LTE, she was not on the local wireless, caused that problem too. So yeah, I think DNS troubleshooting is tricky because it's just not something we're used to, and we as application folks, we don't think about DNS resolvers and authoritative versus non-authoritative and the different record types and all that. So yeah, I was helping Mark through some of that. And then I was telling him, and I think I've talked about it on the show a little bit, I've got a device at home, some software running called Pi-hole that reduces the number of ads and malicious software that comes down. It does that at a DNS level. And so for me, I've not had any of these problems, I don't think. But for me, that problem would be even more tricky to troubleshoot because I've got a domain controller at home because I've got all my machines on a domain, so that does DNS. I've got my Pi-hole in the mix there that does DNS. So flushing all of the caches and pointing everything is very complicated. But I was telling Mark about this. I'm like, well, once you've got all your DNS stuff figured out, if internet ads bother you and the kid and all that kind of stuff, let me know. I'll help you set one of these up. He's like, I just don't feel like messing with DNS right now. It's like, I'm kind of scared of the whole thing. I'm like, that's fair.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think one of the things, just for you guys as you're starting to look at this, when you're troubleshooting these, online properties today, the error messages are probably more helpful than they seem like they are, right? So for example, people started saying, hey, my app is broken. What'd you do? And then the error message they send me over is, something traffic manager, right? I mean, in my head immediately, I'm like, ain't nothing wrong with the app. It is more at the Azure scale, right? Or the one yesterday. So part of British Columbia had a bunch of these Azure issues yesterday. It was like just stuck to their region. It was the same type of thing. The guy's like, what did you do to the app? Were you in there? And I'm like, A, I'm not in there. And B, the error messages you're getting back right now are API, bad API calls, right? That's not the app, right? If the app is broken, it's like, hey, Control X doesn't work. And I realize I'm speaking in Power Apps, but SharePoint error messages, Power BI error messages, they're all, if you look at them, take 1 second and just look for words that feel Azure-y instead of appy or producty, you might get a better idea of where to kind of go looking for the issue.
Yeah, and so that's an interesting thing because I think I'm not sure if it's a DNS issue or not, but about a week or two ago, on this machine and this machine only, I can't search my mail in Outlook. So if I go into my inbox, because I've got multiple tenants set up, if I go into my inbox and search for something, it doesn't work. And it gives me an error that says I might not be connected to the internet. Now, it would seem apparent that I am connected to the internet. This is not a concern. But one of Mark's things that he was troubleshooting said that same thing. And if you think about it, so you're looking at that and you're like, Outlook's broken. This is dumb. But why does Outlook think you're not connected to the internet? Because it's, can't resolve something, or it's resolving something to an IP address that's not responding the way that it thinks it's supposed to. And so I don't know. It works on other machines. So I don't know.
Well, you need to bust out some Fiddler and see what the web call is and see. That
probably is a good idea to do that, to do Fiddler. Yeah. And this takes us down another rabbit hole. Why DNS is a crazy thing. So I don't know if you guys remember a while back, there was some piece of malware that was going around and it was doing a bunch of horrible things. And some kid in the UK bought a domain. And when he bought the domain, it killed the malware. So this was a couple of years ago. And when that story came out, I'm like, that makes no sense whatsoever. Like that story, like some reporter who doesn't understand computers wrote that makes no sense. How does that even happen? He bought a domain and it shut down the malware. Like that makes no sense. So I was talking to a buddy of mine that does security stuff. He's like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. I'm like, what? How does that make perfect sense?
No.
Are you screwing with me? Because that's not above him. He would do that. But he explained to me this whole cat and mouse thing that happens with malware. And again, it just makes me understand how important DNS is. So kind of what the story was, and it reads like a spy novel. So malware, as we know, it gets installed on computers, and then they're not doing it for laughs these days. They're doing it to make money. They're doing it to whatever. There's a command and control machine somewhere. So the malware gets installed. It has to go out and talk to the command and control machine somewhere. Has to do a DNS lookup to figure out where that machine is at, because you can't, IP addresses move around. And so it resolves the IP address, goes out there, gets its commands, does bad things. Okay. So the bad guy, or the good guys, are like, well, this is pretty obvious then. As soon as we see this piece of malware, we just see where it goes, and then we do whatever. We kill the DNS, we do whatever, and that takes care of it. And they don't want it to actually do any payloady stuff. So when they get a hold of this malware, they get it in a sandbox somewhere, and they go to see what DNS requests that it does. And then they kill that thing. So then the malware guys are like, well, this sucks. We're not making money anymore. So what we're going to do is we're going to go request another URL first and watch that one, and then see if anybody grabs that. So then the good guys put it in a sandbox. They do that, and they're like, okay, all right. So that one doesn't resolve. So what we're going to do then is we're just going to have anything resolve, so that when they go out and do the fake one, it resolves, it thinks it's on the internet, and then it goes out and it does the real one. And the bad guys are like, oh, that sucks. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to make up one that we know will never resolve, just a random chunk of words. And if that one resolves, then we know the good guys have us in this sandbox where everything resolves, and we'll just kill it. And we won't do anything else. And that's what happened to this kid. He went out, he put it in a sandbox. He got the bogus one first, thought that was the one that was going to the command and control thing, bought the domain of random letters, put something out there, and then everyone that was in the wild that wasn't in a sandbox, as soon as it saw that one legit, it thought it was in a sandbox and it shut down. And I'm like, well, that does make perfect sense then, doesn't it? So, but that's all DNS. That's all, it's all using DNS for this crazy stuff.
It's just exhausting, right? And that was a lot of, so a few weeks back when you were out, we had the email guy, I think. Right. Yeah. And, yep. We talked about the cat and mouse game that they're playing with the same type of stuff around spam and bad emails. And it's the same spy novel stuff, right?
Yeah. They
solve it from this angle. So they go this angle. And
it's funny stuff. So yeah, I guess the moral of this story 20 minutes ago when we started the segment was, if you're having any kind of problems with Windows updates or application updates or anything Microsoft-y right now, ipconfig flush DNS on your local machines. If you've got DNS running somewhere at home, flush that. And if none of that works, try pointing your local machine, at Google's DNS 8888 or Cloudflare 1111. Reboot everything, see if that fixes it.
So much work.
That could have been the show right there. Oh.
Well, that all reminds me, I still haven't fixed my home networking, so.
Oh yeah, we do need that.
I'm just not ready.
So don't want this thing to be all bad news. Some good news is every month, well, hell, sometimes a couple times a month, Microsoft does some new cool things in SharePoint Online, and January 2019 has a lot of great things that are coming to SharePoint Online. A lot of great things that are announced. So don't have them all, but there was a blog post, and I can't remember. Was it Chris that posted that? It was Chris McNulty. Posted a thing on Tech Community SharePoint modernization news for this month, and there's a bunch of great things coming to SharePoint Online. Short list: bulk check-in and check-out, which is something that we have wanted and worked around for 12 years now, 13 years. SharePoint 2007, I think, was the first time that really became a problem for me. So the ability to bulk check in and check things out, that rears its ugly head in a number of different places, but now it's going to be easy to do that from the interface. Column totals, which I think is something they showed at Ignite or SharePoint Conference last year or something, is coming.
Well, we'd had some form of that before, right? But then it hadn't made it to modern, so this is getting...
Yes.
Right, it's important to note that all of these changes, like with everything new, is going to modern, not to
modern lists.
The old stuff. Because I got really excited about the sticky headers.
Yeah.
Because, a lot of the lists that I end up dealing with have hundreds and thousands of stuff. And as you scroll down and work your way through it, you lose the header. And if it's 17 columns wide, because why isn't every list 17 columns wide?
Yeah.
It gets a little daunting. So, yeah, I thought sticky headers was an exciting announcement here, too.
I bet once a week I'm in an app or in a web page where I curse the fact that the headers aren't sticky. Like some blob of text that I'm scrolling through and I scroll past. Yes, absolutely. Sticky headers. Another fun one, and this is such a simple thing, and it's such just a nice to have, but it is such a great thing. The ability to insert columns between columns. So before you could only create a new column at the end, and then you had to reorder the columns. So now you can put them in, and you can also drag and drop and move them around and that kind of stuff. So that's just a great ease of use thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's one of the things that I think the data designers or the people who run tools like SharePoint and SQL and CDS, right? Those guys need to be more supportive of today. And this is a great step towards that, is that a lot of people are building apps and designing their data structures, their lists, their libraries, that type of stuff on the fly. And so, you know, it's not the old days where we sit down for 2 weeks and plan the data structure that we're going to build to.
Whiteboard the database schema and get all the stakeholders in there.
Yeah, right. Today we build an app. Oh, I need a column. We add the column, right? And we just do it because it's fast, iterative. But a lot of the tools, like SharePoint had the problem up until this change rolls out, but a lot of the tools did not support this. So yeah, it was like all the first 12 columns were all structured right because we guessed those right. But then the 5 we needed to add, well, they're just shoved at the end because there's nothing else you can do. And that's kind of a annoying thing.
Yeah, and when I was reading all this, especially for whatever reason, this really stuck with these were some really great new pieces of functionality. And again, not game changers, but man, they just really add some polish to things. And I remember reading this thinking, this was the dream that we thought we were going to realize when SharePoint 2016 came out and we had feature packs. Like this was the thing, like they were just going to add these nice little things in every, year or so. But then that turned out to be more work than they could do. And I don't say that begrudgingly, because there was another initiative coming along that said we need to make patching smaller and quicker and less prone to breaking things. And then we're like, but we're going to change the bowels of SharePoint, but we're going to make patching less destructive. I think we can do both of those at the same. Well, I think Microsoft made the right call on that. They decided to go down the path of making patching easier to do. But part of me doesn't wonder if the promise of SharePoint 2016 and the ability to add this stuff gave us on-prem guys like a taste of this online thing. I'm like, oh boy, we would have loved to have done that with on-prem. Turns out it's not possible. But if you go to our online product, we're able to do it out there. But that's kind of what I saw. I'm like, this is what we wanted on-prem.
Yeah, it's absolutely what we've always wanted, right? It was iterative changes that made sense. And especially things like this, right? Nothing in these set of changes is drastic. It doesn't require retraining your users. It doesn't require an all-company meeting about how SharePoint's going to update. It's just some things that if you're a power user, you can build a little bit nicer, better solution. I love these changes. I'm with you. When I read this article a couple weeks ago, I also just was like, yeah, I'm on board.
Yeah, and I'm not like an end user or a power user. Like front end stuff doesn't normally excite me, but for whatever reason, I'm like, well done, Microsoft. Well done.
Yeah. Now, this does reinforce also, right, the whole idea that modern SharePoint is where all this stuff rolled into.
Yep.
And then I think last week we talked about the fact that they're disabling some of the stuff around setting tenant-wide to stay on Classic, right? They're really pushing you to move to modern. Yep. Which, once again, will just remind you that, at some point we're going to have the new version of SharePoint. So yep. I'm still waiting. I can't wait for that awkward moment when they're like, new modern. So we got Classic, we got modern, and then we're going to have new modern. I just can't wait for that day.
I feel like I've had that frustration a number of times. The first time that I felt that frustration was there was the iPad and then the iPad 2, and the next version was called the new iPad. And I'm like, well, what are you going to call the next one? And how are you going to refer to this one 10 years from now or 5 years from now? What ridiculous naming.
Yeah, that's my favorite story also.
Yeah. And the other one that's funny, I think I've talked about this. I listen to a lot of podcasts on language and stuff like that. And the language that we're speaking right now is modern English. There was Old English and Middle English, and now there's modern English. 500 years from now, what are people going to refer to the language we're speaking as now? Will they be speaking postmodern English then? I don't even...
That sounds like something you learn in English class, right? This poem is from the postmodern era of the Renaissance Classic Fair.
Yeah, the neo-modern.
Neo-modern, there you go. Right? Wasn't he the guy in The Matrix?
Yeah. Oh, I love that guy, man. So that's I don't know. That's fun stuff. But yeah, the modern. I can't wait. What's going to come up?
Yeah. Well, then
Eric brings up in the chat room Coke and Coke Classic and New Coke.
Coke, yeah. But yeah, and we had another good update around the whole mass delete notifications.
Yeah, so this one, I loved this one because it brought back two things we've talked about in the past, and it did it in a great way. So a while back, I don't even remember when it was, I did a blog post on how to keep up with Office 365 changes. Because nobody can. There's just no way to do it. I should revisit that blog post to see if there's ways to add. But one of the ways was, if you're a tenant administrator, sign up for the little email alerts to the new stuff that's coming in. And this is one of the things that came in through that. So I don't know if I've got a link to this in the notes, if that will work, but you have to be able to log into the Office or Microsoft 365 Admin Center to read this article. But it's in your little mailbox there. And it talks about how there's going to be a new notification coming out if somebody does a deletion of over 200 items at one time. So OneDrive, Sync Client, whatever. And then that brings us to the second one, the blog post I had from a few months ago about the customer that deleted 90-some thousand pictures with OneDrive. I'm like, oh, that would have been nice to have then.
Yeah, and that's it's interesting, right? Because the first several times you're ever going to get that warning, it's going to be annoying because you're like, yes, I deleted the stuff. I pressed the delete button. Why didn't you know that? But that first time it saves your bacon because Megatron the Virus 17 deleted all your content. I hope you go back and say thank you, Microsoft, for all those times I cursed you about those annoying messages telling me that I deleted stuff that I know I deleted.
Yep, that reminds me, a long time ago, a buddy of mine had some SCSI hard drives. That tells you how long ago the story was.
SCSI.
Rode to work on his dinosaur, all that. And he was formatting one, and this was a massive one. It was probably, 4 gigabytes, something like that. And he was trying to format it, and he was telling me later, he's at a desk, he's got a million things going on. He's like, format this drive. Yes, I mean it. Yes, format the drive. And then he hits yes and realizes it's the wrong drive. Like he had in anger answered yes like 6 times, all the while it was the wrong drive. Like, what more could they do?
Oh, yeah, that's that reminded me of something else I want to buy on Amazon. Yeah. Your talk is SCSI. I tuned you out when you talked about SCSIs and told your story because no one cares. But I was doing some Amazon shopping while you're talking. Thank you for that.
Yeah. So Stacy in the chat room loaded me up. She's like, well, the only problem is you have to restore file by file. It takes forever.
Oh.
If only there was a way to bulk undelete files, like maybe with PowerShell or something. I'll go ahead and paste that in the chat window for Stacy's viewing pleasure, and also have it in the show notes as well.
I mean, Stacy, you're pretty good at softballs, right? You played in high school, didn't you? Maybe college?
That was slow, right across the plate. I could have called that one, Babe Ruth style.
Oh.
Yep.
Yeah, well, no, so that reminds me of a new thing around deletion that I just ran into this morning.
I would love to hear it hot off the presses.
So I've got a customer who is trying to roll out a new SharePoint intranet, and sadly, he chose me to help him. I was doing a bunch of Power App stuff for him. He's like, wait a minute, you said you were a SharePoint guy too. I'm like, no, I didn't. But so anyway, I've got to learn lots of new things helping him through this. And so as part of the transition, we want to, it turns out the site that he built everything off was company. It was, company.com or companysharepoint.com/sites/company intranet test. That was the URL. So there's no changing URLs, even though they said they were working on it over a year ago. I emailed someone about it. That person, who I'm guessing you can guess who is, did not respond to my email.
No idea who that person could possibly be.
And so got in there, and I'm like, all right, all we can do is, maybe we can try and make a template of that one and kind of phase it out. I was like, what URL do you want? And so he gave me the URL he wanted. I went and checked in SharePoint, not in use. So I went to try and create something with that URL, and it said, womp womp, that URL is not available. Much angry shaking of the fist. Mm-hmm. After about a day of getting access to his environment, that's been another problem. It turns out that at some point he had made that site collection. Mm-hmm. He had deleted that site collection. Mm-hmm. And it is sitting out in the site collection recycle bin, which ties up that URL. So I can't use that URL until he purges it from the site collection recycle bin. I had no idea that SharePoint did this until this morning.
Yeah, well, that's, And again, this is one of those things where you're angry about it now, but the first time it doesn't keep that site out there and you need to restore it, you'll be glad that factionality's there.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it makes complete sense. And when it wouldn't give me the URL, I was like, I know somewhere it's hiding. And what's interesting, though, is if you use the old SharePoint admin portal, you can't see these deleted sites collections. You also can't see group site collections. So, but I switched over to the new portal, and then it was just clear as day what the issue was. So, yeah, great lesson learned. And kudos, I guess, really to Microsoft, because I was able to piece it together pretty quick. Once I got into the new portal, which is the whole reason I needed a new portal, but I don't know.
Yeah, and the other place that has bumped me is before the modern SharePoint Admin Center was really useful, is if you created a group, it would create a site collection that you couldn't see, and you would try to create a site collection, except it wouldn't be there, except it was because you couldn't. Yeah, they've got that much better now. So, yeah, that's a good one. And and there's sometimes, I think as admins, especially grizzled old admins like us, we don't really read error messages. We just click OK and make it go away. Like your talk earlier about the APIs and all that. Sometimes if you just slow down, take a breath, read the error message, maybe, just give it a minute's thought. Sometimes it helps. No,
that is such a good point, right? That is, as we, in this new online fast changing world, slowing down is often the answer. This is something we fight with people around Power Apps and Flow today. They try to do something, right? They're in their head, they map out how to solve it. And they go into Flow and they're like, well, Flow doesn't do that thing. I can't do it. Right? And I'm like, stop. Think about the problem from a different direction. And I bet you $5 that you can get there from there. Just, you couldn't do it the 3 steps you wanted. Maybe it takes 4 steps. Maybe it only takes 2 using but that's one of the, the people that are being successful right now. That's the thing they're able to do, is to step back and say, what's a different way to look at this? Where else could this be? Where else does this expose itself, instead of just being like, it doesn't work.
And I'm at that stage right now. Every time I try to do something with Flow, it doesn't work exactly the one way that in my head it should work, and I give Flow the middle finger and move on.
Yeah. No, and PnP PowerShell is another great example. Especially in this, back to our number one show pet peeve, right? This is like our show is now built on this topic. Technical documentation must have dates.
Must have dates.
Because I was looking at one of my problems, I went and searched, and there was someone at a blog that said, you can't do this thing. I'm like, I don't believe you. So I kept looking, and then 5 screens later, there's a blog from someone else that says, here's how you do the thing that guy said you couldn't do, because his thing was 2 years old, and this thing was 2 days old.
Yep. And when he wrote it, it was true.
Yeah.
You couldn't do it then. Yeah.
Oh.
I'm with you.
I feel all worked up.
I'm with you. Let's find a happier. So I guess we'll do a happier one before we go to a sad one for you. Another new thing that's coming out, not out yet, is the idea of mega menus inside of SharePoint Online. So this is the idea that you can have menus in the top nav, but you can have nested ones, and you can do all kinds of crazy stuff. Far more power usery than I usually play with, but I know my power usery friends are very excited about this. So this is a good thing. Not out yet, but coming soon.
Yeah, the mega menu, that's something that we've been getting requests since SharePoint 2010, I think. So SharePoint 911. Oh, that's an old name. Can you legally say that name? I'm not. Probably not. I mean, but I think all the snipers are currently getting people for talking about the big game still, so they're running around the country. So I think they're too busy to get to me right now.
People that are trying to tackle Tom Brady, those guys.
Yes. But so yeah, we actually built one and sold it, right? Because there was been such a demand for it. So it's taken Microsoft a long time to get there, which I'm sure there's reasons for, but yeah, that'll be a big hit, I think.
Yeah, and hot on the heels of that, your friend and mine, Sue Hanley's got a great article on how to make the best value out of it. So Sue is like the the business process whisperer or something. Like, I don't even begin to understand what it is that Sue does, but it's awe-inspiring to watch it happen. like she gets inside of the mind of business processes and finds the best way to do them inside of SharePoint. So it's fun watching her work. And this is one of those things. So you and I, we see the mega menus. We're like, yes, wide, deep, yes, menus are great. And we're doing all this thing. And Sue's like, here's how the human mind works. And here's how we want to do this. And you're like, oh, that is so much better. So she put this article out on Computer World about 6 great steps to take when you're running this out. So after you read about the new mega menus, read Sue's article.
Yeah, I mean, in user experience, information architecture, right? Those type of thought process, instead of, just because I can do it, should I do it, they're so they are so critical to success today in building solutions that users can use.
Yeah, and that has been a tough transition for me. You and I have both been the let's just try it and see if it works. That's been the hallmark of our career for a long time. Getting out of that, yes, it works, but should I do it that way? Is there a better way? I'm getting there, but that's not natural for me. Not normal.
Well, so the Power Apps. I'm all choked up. No,
do I need to call 911?
Chewy's right here. I'm sure he'll resuscitate me after he eats my food off my desk and make sure he cleans up everything. But no, so the Power Apps video I just did was about making better user experiences through a tabbed interface.
Oh, yeah.
And so, because a lot of our people are coming to us like, hey, I want to have a mega form for my SharePoint list, right? That 17 column wide thing.
Yep.
And one of my rules is forms shouldn't scroll, right? I mean, the capability's there, but it's just not a good user experience. Be like, hey, here's a screen full of crap you have to fill in, and you need to scroll to the bottom to find all the crap. No one likes that.
Nope.
So what I did was I put out a video on how to build a tabbed interface so that one form can just show and hide stuff, but it's the same amount of data being collected, but for the user, it's just a breath of fresh air. It's not this daunting 200 line thing. It's 370 line things, which feels better. So.
Yeah. No, I mean, humans definitely like things in specific chunks of, so that's a good, and that's another one of those things where I'm 9 months behind you. You have been harping on user experience things because of Power Apps and all that longer than I have. I'm getting there. I'm coming around, but that's been a change in our philosophy on things.
I can't wait until that day that you get on here and you're like, hey guys, I built a Power App and let me tell you about the things I learned. I'm gonna be like, it's been 9 months. It's been 9 months.
Yep. So that's a good one. And well, let's wrap it up. You wanted to talk about your Yeti.
Oh yes. So, as you guys may or may not have recalled, if you watched the show, you saw me have to do the show on a headset a couple times. Had a bunch of issues with my old Yeti. It was a couple years old. Was out of warranty, so I was like, all right, you know what? My Yeti is amazing. I'm happy to give these people more money for another mic. Mm-hmm. So I bought, so I had the blackout. I bought the whiteout because, I don't know, I'm weird that way. And I put it into production, and so for a couple weeks it was fine, and then all of a sudden, my whiteout, so the new one under warranty, started giving this terrible buzzing feedback. The monitor mic,
you, right? It was in your ear, not ours.
Yes. It was only burning my eardrum, so I'm the only one that suffered.
I was okay with that.
It's so kind of you. And so, really, the interesting part about the story is, so I open a support ticket, like, hey, you can RMA it, but so the RMA process is I have to pay shipping to them. They will then test it and confirm it, and you have to do a whole bunch to even get them to issue the RMA. And if they find it's broken, they'll send me a new one. If not, they'll ship me back mine. And I was like, all right, once again, I'm a big fan. I'm a supporter. I want you guys to do it. So I'm going to play this game with you. But in my head the whole time, I was thinking, why should I do this? This is going to cost me money to RMA your device, right? Yeah. $10, $12, $15 to ship it. Whereas in reality, all I could do was go out to Amazon and say, hey, this thing's broke, and send it back to Amazon. They would pay for everything. And then Amazon would either send me a new one or just give me all my money back. Either way, it would cost me nothing. And I don't know. I just kind of want to get your thoughts on this whole idea that I embraced it costing me more money to get this fixed instead of just dealing with it. I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's two things going on there. I mean, I think for me, since it's not my money and not my broken mic, it's very easy for me to dissect this process in that they've had a bunch of people who are just lazy and don't want to troubleshoot stuff, and they just send stuff back that's not broken. And Yeti has to pay for the shipping, and they don't want to do that. So they're putting that barrier up to slow people down from shipping working stuff. It's not my stuff. It's not my hassle. So that seems very, very clear, well-intentioned. I've been on the other end of it, and it's infuriating. So that's part of it. The other thing is, and this is something you and I talked about yesterday about your chair, Amazon has just spoiled us. Like, we don't deserve to live in the world that Amazon lets us think we should live in. And this is another example. So Shane bought the new chair. I don't think if you talked about that on the air or not, but this chair is going to take like a week to show up. And you and I were just aghast that it was going to take a week for this chair. Like, I could be dead in a week. What good does this chair do me?
Yeah.
Because you and I have been getting things in 2 days or less from Amazon for years now. And if it takes 25 hours or I guess 49 hours for something to show up to my house, I'm done with these people. I can't live like this if it takes more than 2 days for something to show up.
Yep.
Amazon has just made us horrible people.
It's tough, right? They definitely have conditioned us. Yeah. I was aghast. So my kid went to stay with grandma, right? And grandma lives 45 minutes south of here. And he didn't take a charging cable for his Nintendo Switch. And it's a USB-C. I'm like sitting next to like 7 of them. I'm like, well, I'm not driving it to you. I'm not going to spend 2 hours of my night without kids driving to get my kid a charger.
No.
And so I'm like, well, so grandma went and got him one because that's what grandmas do. Mm-hmm. But she didn't understand. So she got it with USB-C on both ends.
Gotcha.
She needed a USB-A on the other end, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm like, oh, all right, well, maybe I can fix this. So I hop on Amazon Prime now or whatever, right? And in our zip code, we have that. And I could have a USB-C cable here in an hour for, $7. Yep. Cheaper than I can go to the store myself and get it. She doesn't have Amazon Prime or Prime Now. I'm like it's not a service for her zip code.
Right.
I'm like, where do you live? I don't understand.
Running water there? Are bears attacking my kids?
Yeah, I mean, you can't just say press some buttons and a person just shows up with your food. I mean, can you not DoorDash either? I mean, it just blew my mind that my mom, who lives 45 minutes south and in one of the fastest growing counties in the country for like the last 20 years. I mean, it's been in the top of the list for that long, and they still have not. There is even a distribution. The Amazon Regional Distribution Center is in the same county that she is in. She is like exactly, yep. 2 minutes away from it. Mm-hmm. I'm just so spoiled. I just couldn't fathom this. This is so weird. I don't know. I'm overwhelmed.
Yep. So I've had similar situations. This was a year or so ago. The family was going on a road trip up to Minneapolis. I think it's like 3.5 hours away. We were half an hour on the road. And one of the kids realized they'd forgotten the charger for their tablet, and it was not a standard like a micro USB or anything like that. And we could have turned around, spent, half hour back and a half hour, spent an hour, or I could have driven to Best Buy or something maybe and gotten one. But on the road, I got on my phone and went to Amazon and had them overnight me a charging cable to our hotel so that the next day, and they did. And it's just like, that is just the way that I think to solve problems these days.
Yeah. And so do you, maybe I'm a little worked up over nothing. Do you have Amazon the same day stuff?
No, I don't think so.
So you don't have that yet. Where is your distribution center? Do you know how far it is?
I don't know if we're from the one in Kentucky or whether there's a closer one. I have no idea.
I would imagine there's probably one in Des Moines, quite frankly.
It's possible. And I've never looked at the Prime Now. So my zip code is 50010 if you want to I don't even know where to look for the Prime Now stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it has its own app and everything, but so, and it's awesome, right? So we've used it to buy like a cable, like and literally have it show up an hour later. Yep. You can also, a lot of places they will do food and adult beverage delivery as well. So I've been at a party before where they were running out of adult beverages, and 30 minutes later, the Amazon Prime lady showed up at the door with 7 bags of stuff. Yeah. So then, all right, now I'm very fascinated though. Do you have like DoorDash or any of those things?
I don't know, but I wouldn't have looked, I guess.
You don't like the idea of someone delivering food to your front door?
No, I mean we have people bring pizzas here all the time. That is not not functionality we're opposed to. But I guess it's like there've been enough of those types of services over the years that have tried to make it and haven't, that I just don't think of them as a legitimate thing yet. But having said that, I know there are a bunch of restaurants in town that don't do delivery that have a delivery service. There's I forget what it's called. So something similar problem where I could like we were at a restaurant last night, Texas Roadhouse, and the PTO fundraiser there. But
Steak for charity, I know.
Steak for charity, exactly. But the guy from this other company, we saw him running in and out with insulated bags, delivering steaks to people at home. So that functionality is here. We just haven't ever done it.
Yeah, so there's DoorDash, Uber Eats, Grubhub. There's several different ones.
Yeah.
And right, it's promoting the laziness of us.
I like to think of it as expanding the economy and providing, the gig economy jobs. That's what I like to think of doing.
Maybe that should be the topic for next week's show, is talk about those. Because I think a lot of those people, if they were good at math, they would realize that they probably were paying money to be my food delivery in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah,
So
let's take it on down. Where are you and I going to be showing up?
Oh my goodness, I have to get on a plane. Are you flying in Saturday too?
Yes, because we're doing a thing Sunday, aren't we?
Yes.
So,
I just didn't know if you were doing the show up Sunday morning or if you were. So you're coming in Saturday? Yay! So
I think I'm like 10 minutes before or after you, something like that.
Oh, so you want me to wait on you? I see how this is.
Well, one of us is waiting on the other. I can't remember which one is which, but yeah.
Anyway, so you guys all know what we're talking about, right? We're headed on to Austin, Texas to do SharePoint TechCon. So it's too late to tell you guys to go sign up for it, but Todd and I will get to hang out. Hopefully we'll see and meet some of you there and have a little fun for a few days.
Yeah. So we'll be there. But we're both leaving early because we both have things to do Tuesday night or Tuesday afternoon at home. So if you want to come get free hugs and all of that, you're going to have to get them before Tuesday morning.
Yeah.
That's when we fly out.
But always a fun little show. I know there's been some changes of the show organizer, so it'll be interesting to see what new spin and flair they've put on the event themselves. So.
Yep. New location in Austin, one that we haven't been to.
That's right, downtown, right?
Yep. No more romantic walks around the lake for you and I, or walking over to the ice cream place.
I know. I mean, we'll find an ice cream place. I have faith in us.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that is next week. Holy cow. And then a month from that, so a month from like Monday, I'll be going down to the Kansas City user group on Monday, March 11th, and talking to them. I think I've got a link somewhere for that. And then a couple days after that, you and I are going to be at the North American Collaboration Summit in Branson, Missouri.
Yeah, and there's still time to sign up for that one. So if you want to go, right, Todd and I were doing an all-day Power Apps and Flow thing there as well, right?
Yeah, and a couple of other sessions. I forget all what we're doing, where.
Yeah, so lots of content there. And that one, I'm interested to see how this travel thing works out. It's not convenient. They do not have Amazon Prime Now. I'm going to go right out on a limb and say they are not Prime Nowing it.
Yeah, there is just no easy way to get there. I'm going to drive, I think. Yeah, I'm going to drive because the nearest airport to the venue is like an hour away. And, you got to get to the airport an hour early, and it's like a 6-hour drive for me. So once you start figuring in waiting times and driving times, it's almost, and this with the driving, I can just leave whenever I want.
Yeah, and the great news about the North American Collaboration Summit, if you needed a better reason to sign up, Lori Gowan will be there in the flesh and blood. So can you imagine meeting her in person?
Lynn Dye is going to be there. It's been forever since I've seen Lynn in person.
Oh, Lynn.
Awesome. I'm doing more WordPressy things, Lynn, so I'm going to have to pick your brain. That will be awesome.
Yep. So there's that. And then I think that gets us into SharePoint Saturday Omaha, right?
Yep. And
so March 30th for that one. Yours truly will be the keynote. And if you can't get enough of me, you can show up a day early, March 29th. I'm doing an all-day session on Power Apps and Flow there as well. Are you noticing a trend here? So I'm pretty excited about that one. I think it'll be neat. I've never been to Omaha. They promised me a steak from the place that Warren Buffett likes to get steaks. So hopefully some of his magic will rub off on my stock portfolio.
I've gotten a steak there. It was a good steak. And I got hash browns there. It was good.
Any respectable steakhouse has hash browns as an option. It's interesting, right? Hash browns are really at real low-end places and at real high-end places. Hash browns don't get served at middle places.
Waffle House and Warren Buffett's restaurant.
Just pointing out the obvious here. Tater tots also fall into that. I don't know if you've found that. Tater tots are one of those low-end, high-end foods.
They're becoming more middle-end. I can think of middle-end places like Sonic. There's a burger place, a couple burger places here in town that do tater tots that are not.
Sonic is low-end, my friend.
That's probably true. But I think of it not Waffle House low-end. I think
Whoa. No, you stop. You stop right there.
Waffle House.
Waffle House is way above Sonic. Like
really?
Multi-tiers. You can't get a T-bone steak.
I was going to get stabbed at a Sonic. Like, that's just never happened to me. And it's happened multiple times at a Waffle House.
I think I was stabbed once. I know there was a guy with a gun one time in one. I was there for that.
There was a time at Tech Ed, this was like 10 years ago, Paul Thurrott and... No, Paul wasn't there. Peter Bright and a couple of people. And we were at this Waffle House in Orlando. And this guy came in, and he looked like he was going to stab us. And it was real, like legitimately real shaky. And Peter at one point, so then the guy walked back behind, and he was a cook or something. At one point, Peter's like, I couldn't tell if that guy was going to stab us or if he worked here. And I'm like, Peter, you're from the UK. At Waffle House, you don't have to choose. He could work here and stab you. There's not...
I was there with you at this. You're misremembering it.
Okay.
Well, I mean, no, the story was right, but the people that you're thinking of, because it was me, you... And then it was all these other, like, your friends from, like, other places.
Right, Peter and Jason, yeah. So Peter Bright's from Ars Technica, yeah.
Yeah, maybe it was a different... We had a very similar experience at Waffle House. And the scariest people in there at that time to me were one of the people that you'd met. It was like one of your internet friends that was meeting you there for the first time.
Yeah, that was probably Jason.
Yeah. I know Jason's the one that has the wife in Colombia.
Venezuela, yep.
No, it wasn't Jason. I'd met him before.
Okay.
He isn't. It was some redheaded guy. I don't know. Anyway. The
red-haired guy, Peter Bright. Yeah.
Oh, that was. Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Yeah, I remember. So I was there for this. Yeah, it was a little shady. I agree.
And I'd forgotten that you were there because you were like way down on the list of people I cared about. But I mean, for when that guy came in, like legitimately, we were all like, even by Waffle House standards, this guy's a little scary. And,
Yes, yeah. And like every Waffle House, right? It was a trailer tucked kind of in the back corner. So, the police were half an hour away, even though they should have been right there, right? It was, yeah.
So, finishing up the show here, I will probably not be going to SharePoint Saturday Omaha because I will be flying to Sweden for the SharePoint Exchange Forum. That will be in Stockholm. That starts Monday, which means I got to get there on Sunday, which means I got to fly there on Saturday. And anyway, but if you're going to be in Europe, go to that deal. I'll be doing some stuff. Mark's going to be there. Julie's going to be there. It's going to be the whole crowd on this end of it. And then that takes us into May.
Yep, good old SharePoint conference. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, I think, or doesn't. I don't know how that works.
That's the promise, yeah. So the SharePoint conference, I forget what all the URLs are for that, but SharePoint conference NA, I think. But we're going to be doing stuff there. We're going to be doing a day-long thing and just running around doing all kinds of stuff. You gotta get, if you get to go to one, that's a good one to go to.
Yeah, and just a couple things about that, right? One is remember that they like to see early registration. So if you know you're going, right, the sooner you register, they give you like free stuff. Like, I mean, Xboxes and, hotel gift cards. And there's a bunch of perks for signing up early. So if you know you're going to go and you've just been too lazy to go fill it out, do it sooner than later because you get more free stuff that your company's paying for by sending you.
Yeah. That's
one. The other one is if you use the code YOUNG, you get $50 off and a hug from me and a thumbs down from Todd, which is like a win-win-win. So...
Yeah, some people might not want the hug from you, so that might be
Yeah.
But so, well, we've gone the full hour, even though we didn't mean to. So, thanks everybody in the chat room. We'll stick around for a bit, and I think we'll both be back in time to do this next Wednesday. So we'll be doing it then. Thanks everybody. See you next week.
Toodles.